I know most of you have attempted or have tried to apply to either Vets United or to the research grant scheme. So we want to explain some of those key attributes that WTS looks out for in the applications, and then some of those common pitfalls that that are very avoidable and it could actually make fail your application. And then also we have a case study analysis of some of the successful and unsuccessful proposals that we have received in the past. Our agenda for today is having an introduction, which Karen has done, and also I'm doing part of it. Then we will have a presentation about the Vets United project proposals. This will be delivered by Dr. Wendy Phillips and Dr. Sion. After that, we'll have a presentation from Dr. Dennis Mohanguzi about the WTS research grants proposals, highlighting those key attributes and so on. At this point, let me welcome our first presenters. It's going to be a joint presentation by Dr. Wendy Phillips and Sion.
Good morning, everyone from Berlin. You're highly welcome to today's webinar on proposal writing. I'm so excited to share some thoughts with you, and I hope you're going to find this very useful in subsequent proposals that you'll be writing. Looking at the Vets United project, we have some eligible criteria that we want you to pay attention to next time when you are putting in your proposal. And we accept proposals only from those who work at the universities or from the colleges, especially in Africa and Latin America, that offer animal health related study programs. And secondly, our focus is to improve animal welfare education and training. Also, the project duration is between 6 to 12 months. It was clearly stated. So please, anytime you're applying for either the Vet United project or any other project, always try to watch out for the duration of the project, because this will guide you as to the details that you need to put into your proposal. And the budget as well for the Vet United program is 5,000 euros. Just to make sure that we really understand this, and I want to believe you have at one time or the other, submitted grants, written proposals, but I just want you to have a look at this. It's a simple case study, but I want us to pick this, the mistakes that you can find here. So here I will be showing you a case study of a grant application process that we reviewed. And we have here 3 applicants who actually submitted their proposal for funding. And I underline this, the reason for the funding or the purpose for the funding is to improve animal welfare education and infrastructure at their institution. That is the goal, that is the scope, to improve animal welfare education and infrastructure at their institution. This is quite an interesting and interactive session, so I would love you to drop your comments, because there are some questions I'll be asking in subsequent slides, and I want you to drop your answers in the chat, and then we'll discuss it later. During the review process, we observed a difference in the clarity, the strategy, and also the structure across the applications. And below, I just picked out only 2 questions. And the reason why I selected these 2 questions is because they are applied questions. And most times, it's not being answered properly. So now, this is question 1 of the applied question. So like I said, I want you to drop your answers to the questions, because I have, So the question actually is, what are your indicators of measuring success of the project? For those of you who don't know, even if they don't ask you in any proposal, please always ensure, this is a big question that you need to answer in your proposal. Write it down. Or at the end of this proposal or this project, this is how I'm going to assess the success of this project. Even if it's not clearly stated, it is very important, because the funders will want to know whether you know what you're doing and how you're going to know whether you have actually succeeded in achieving your goals at the end of the day. So we have 3 applicants, applicant A, applicant B, and applicant C. So look at their responses. Let me read it to you. Success is when animal welfare is practiced and habituated in the whole country. That's the response of applicant 1 to that question. The response of applicant B to that question was number of staff trained, number of upgraded livestock equipment, and number of improved animal house units. Please pay attention, read the text properly. And then applicant C said, we will measure success by training at least 150 students and 10 early career staff in humane animal handling. Now, if you look at the responses of these 3 applicants, which applicant's indicator of success is SMART? And what does SMART stand for? Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it relevant? And is it time-bound? Don't forget, the proposal for the Vet United is between 6 to 12 months. But if you look at response applicant 1, do you think this can be achieved in between 6 to 12 months? I need you to drop your comments in the chat as well. Is it SMART? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? So I want you to assess these 3 applicants. You can take a screenshot of it and you can start dropping your response in the chat box. But looking at this, you would see that achieving animal welfare practice to be acceptable or practice in a whole country is not achievable in even 10 years, not to talk of between 6 to 12 months. So it is not achievable. And the whole idea of the project was, how can you improve animal welfare education and training in your institution, not your country? Now, applicant B, what happened? Did you notice any spelling error? Please, did you notice any spelling error in their response? And it's not specific. It says, I will measure success based on the number of staff trained. How many staff are you going to train? 100, 10, 50, 200? And the number of upgraded livestock equipment, as in, what equipments do you want to upgrade? So it's not specific. It's not measurable. It's not even, time-bound. It is not even achievable. But for applicant C, they were clear and specific. We will measure success by training at least you have a number attached to that. 150 students, 10 early career staff in humane animal handling. So this is the second question. How do you intend to sustain the project? Even if it is not being asked, this is something you always should make sure you put into your application. Now, sustainability is very key because funders want to see that even though I give you this seed grant, how will you carry on after the end of this project? Will it just end there? Then it doesn't make sense. But once you are able to prove that at the end, this is how we can sustain the project, this is our plans to make sure that we continually, progress in this line, then it gives them an understanding and they see how serious you are about this project. So let's look at question 2. How do you intend to sustain the project? Applicant 1 said, we will repair bad animal housing and provide internal training using local funds to maintain improvements. B said, using this seed grant experience, we will apply for more local and international funds to keep animal welfare activities at Riverside University. Please read in between the lines. And applicant C said, sustainability will come from integrating activities into institutional systems, like building staff ownership and embedding content into the curriculum. What's the analysis? What do you think about this? Identify at least 3 red flags in applicant B's proposal that might concern the funders. That means that may make them not get their proposal to be funded. What are the 3 red flags that you can identify? Please, are you dropping that in the chat? So maybe in the Q&A, we can now get into the discussion. But take a screenshot for those of you who are just joining, because I'll be handing over to the next presenter. You can take a screenshot, drop the 3 red flags in applicant's bid proposal that might concern funders. But here, there is the issue of local funds. They are trying to tell me, applicant B is actually trying to tell me that they don't have experience, that they are using my own fund. They want to use my own fund to build their experience, and then they don't even have intention of how to sustain the project because they are depending on external funding. What if they don't get extra external funding? What else can they do that they don't know how to do it? They had a lot of spelling errors. You can see experience is not properly spelled, and university, there are issues. So it means that they didn't take time to prepare this. I understand fully that, a lot of us, English is not our first language, but at least with the level that we are in now, we should at least see how we can correct all these grammatical errors, mistakes, and corrections before we send in our proposals. So it's not also specific, not sustaining, they are over-depending on external fund, and that is a big issue. So I'll hand over to Wendy now to continue with the presentation. If you have any a suggestion, how do you think this can be resolved? We will have that during the Q&A session.
Thank you so much. So Sheon just gave a couple of examples of specific proposals, but we also looked at the proposals that we received in the last 10 years and looked at maybe common errors that were done or where we think particularly attention should be paid to, and just summarized it. But just to let you know, these are proposals from a very wide range of applicants. So this could be NGOs, universities, really small ones, people who've applied to big international grants for many years, or sometimes people that applied for the very first time and sent a proposal for the very first time. So it's a very wide range of proposals, and we just wanted to summarize a bit what we wanted to point out. So first, the form may be basic, but very, very important is make a grammar and a spelling check before you send the proposal off. As you've seen in one of the examples, it's just a really bad first impression. If you have a lot of spelling mistakes or, just half sentences and gaps, it just looks so much better with a proper grammar and spelling check. And similar to this, unless you intend to highlight something, just use the same font type and size throughout the whole proposal. It's just all about the first impression. Also, something is, I know we have a very long, very complicated German name that's very easy to misspell, but it's just a form of showing, that it's precise and you took time and attention to do it. Check the name of the organization and check the name of the contact person you're writing to. So that's just general form. Then use clear and short sentences. Something that's also very important is stick to the maximum number of pages or word limits. There might be organizations, there might be people you apply to where you put a lot of effort and a lot of work into a proposal and the maximum number of pages is 4, and if you send them 5 or 6, they might not even look at it, and it just gets excluded because it doesn't fulfill the requirements, which would be a shame. So just make sure you stick to the maximum number of pages. The language must be understandable. Sometimes several people with several different backgrounds in a team read and look at the proposals, and especially if you maybe apply in a very specific area with very specific terms, just explain them, use language that is understandable for everyone. And also maybe towards the length of the proposal and the short sentences, avoid duplications and irrelevant details. In regard to the content, make sure that the proposal is within the required scope of what the funding is for. So again, for example, for us, for the Vets United program, as Sheon said, we support animal welfare, training, at universities and colleges. So even though we're an animal welfare organization, we wouldn't accept proposals, for example, for a vaccination clinic or a castration clinic, unless it's a training clinic, but just for the activity that would be outside our scope, and check if you're eligible for the proposal. So in our case, that would be universities and colleges that teach within the that teach animal health related courses. I already mentioned that in the language, and it needs to be understandable without the specific background, especially if you have a proposal in a very specific area. Then the next point is a point that we find quite often and very, very important is you have to have clear, defined goals, and the activities have to be linked to your goals. And for example, if your goal is to train your teaching staff in animal welfare, so yeah, as I mentioned, the activities have to be linked to the goal. If you have an activity that's not linked to the goal, you just have to adjust it, and then you can have several goals. So that's really, really important. And something that also was already in the example that Sheon presented earlier, it has to be achievable within the capacity of the applicant, within the time frame, and within the budget. So our time frame, for example, is a year, and we have a budget of a maximum of 5,000 euros. So you won't change the animal welfare situation for all the animals in the country or change countrywide legislation within a year. And yeah, so that's really, really important that it is achievable. Connected to the goals is a strong connection between the problem and the solution. So you have to identify the problem that you would like to address, and then the goals and the activities should be connected to the solution. In terms of measuring your success, we just talked about the SMART indicators, have concrete methods for measuring the success of your project, and put those measuring activities into your proposal and report on them. Then it might not always be required, but include a sustainability plan, because even if it's not required, like Sheon said, you achieve things with your program, you have your project, you have successes, and you want them to continue even after the project ends. So always think about the sustainability of the project. And because you have achieved those things, you have successes, you have changed something with your project, it's always important to communicate those results, to share with people who maybe do something similar, want to do something similar, what worked, what didn't work. It always really helps other people to share those results and to talk about your project. Last but not least, but very important, the budget. Again, stick within the range of the offered budget. It might happen that if, for example, like in our case, 5,000 euros is offered and you hand in 6,000 or 7,000 euros, your proposal might not even be looked at because you just don't fulfill the requirements. Only at costs which are within the funding guidelines. So if anything is excluded from being funded, don't put it into the proposal and into the budget. And which also I find very important is explain the purpose of each item and provide a clear cost breakdown. Quite often, the organization you apply for might not be active in your country, might never have been in your country, doesn't know the circumstances, doesn't know average costs are. I find always the more detailed, the better, but you can always check how much detail you should give. But for example, if you asked for funds for transport, for maybe a trainer to go to a workshop, say from where to where, what is the distance, what kind of transport are they taking, what are general costs for transport, because the people who receive the proposal just don't know. Or in terms of salaries, put in what the average salary for that position is, or if you have guidelines at your university that actually say what people get as salaries, add those documents. It's just so much easier to really understand why you put those amounts in. Yeah, that's just a quick summary of things we found through the years in the proposal that are important and to look at. And with this, I would hand back to Paul.
All right. Thank you, Wendy and Sion, for that presentation. Also, actually, I've learned a couple of things. One of the things I've noted is to make sure that we are smart as we bring out the case for whatever we want to do. Make sure that we are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So at this point, I know we are not doing well on time, yet we have quite a lot to talk about. Let me invite our next presenter. Wendy and Sion, we are talking about the Vets United proposals and what needs to be noted. But our next presenter is Dr. Dennis Mohanguzi. He's going to be presenting about the WTS Research Grant Scheme. Dr. Dennis, you're welcome to give your presentation.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar, of course, and of course, selecting me as one of the reviewers for these grants. I have had a lot to run going through the different applications. In terms of who I am, I'm a vet, probably Suna knows that. I've been at the Makerere University previously a faculty of veterinary medicine and of recent a college of veterinary medicine, animal resources and biosecurity for the last 22 years. My primary training is in veterinary medicine, and I have graduate and postgraduate training in molecular biology and biotechnology, advanced epidemiology, and international animal health. I'm currently a principal scientist and a senior lecturer at the college. And I'm currently a PI, so I go through the same struggles like every one of us who is writing grants. And the key thematic areas where I have some grants and have been a PI are emerging zoonotic diseases, MR. We do lots of clinical trials. We do stuff in proteomics, viromics, and vaccinomics. I'm a supervisor to PhD students as well as MSc students, and in the past 9 or so years, I've supervised some PhDs and over 20 MSc students completion. So that's sort of what I do every day, and to do that, we have funding, and I want to appreciate that we have gotten funding from several people, and that each of these people have different requirements when we are doing the applications. And it is some of these experiences that I will hybridize with the WTS application requirements, and then we can share and have a discussion during the Q&A. So one of the things I noticed, of course, I went through the WTS research scheme, and I want to kind of bring forward things that I found in those application documentation, and that each of our applicants, I think, should have read. Of course, WTS is a charitable organization, and core to their work is that they want to improve animal welfare through academic education and continuous training in emerging and developing countries. They do research on animal welfare, and the reason they do that is to raise societal awareness on animal welfare and promote global research on solutions that promote an animal-friendly future. And their grants aim at scientific research in farm animal welfare in developing countries and develop critical mass of animal welfare professionals to address animal welfare challenges. Why am I going through the obvious is that I think most of the time people start to apply when they don't even know the organization they are applying to, and what is core to their principles and their values. And consequently, if you don't have that central to your application, then the people who are evaluating your proposals might actually not find them useful because they will believe you don't even know what the funder is interested in. I'll talk about that later. When we are preparing our applications, I have a strong feeling that we have to understand and prepare our proposals when we have carefully understood the funding information and guidelines. Otherwise, we might miss out very important information within our application pack. And it's very nice that other presenters have actually gone through some of the things that WTS is keen at. Things like budget and timelines, that has been talked about. If, for example, they say the funding call is $20,000 and they are interested in funding 2 to 3 applications, and your budget is $20,000, it would mean that you want to take all the money for the core, yet they are interested in funding 3 applicants. And that can be the only reason why your very beautiful application is not going through. So something as basic as looking at the boundaries of the budget or timelines can be something that actually gets you out of this application call. Then the eligibility, you need to look at what the eligibility is. For example, the WTS had actually outlined what they believe should be the right eligibility, the personnel, their qualification, the language of the application, the currency within which these budgets should be drawn. And if you have concurrent funding, it would be very nice when you are making the budget that you tease apart what the money you're asking for will do and what the concurrent funding you have is going to do. Having some money already is an advantage, but if you cannot tell the organization you are applying to what you want to do with the additional funding, then they can think, and rightly so, that probably you are just looking for additional money for which you have already been funded. And then you also need to appreciate the application rounds. For WTS, this was a 2-round call. And you understand the requirements for each of the round calls. For example, for WTS, you would only go to the round number 2 if you went through round number 1. And even if you went through to round number 2, you have to put in a lot of effort so that you can be the winner. And I found the application process for WTS very forgiving because you are also supplied with the comments of round 1 in details. So that means that you can concentrate on those comments and then improve your application and then submit it. The application rounds usually have deadlines, and it was stated within the WTS call that it would be advantageous if you submitted before the deadline for each of the rounds, which is what I would naturally do. I wouldn't want to go to the deadline. And then the proposal format. You need to find out the word count, the font, whether you must submit hard or electronic copies, or whether you need to use the application templates, or this is a freestyle application. I think for the WTS, there was always a form for you to fill. And when you are filling these forms, it would be nice that you are careful that if they are default maximum word counts, you are not exceeding them and having your text truncated. I think I found some of the applications had truncated text, which means someone was pasting in more words than what the space was allowing. And if you do actually succeed, you need to find out what your obligations as a recipient of the grant will be, the reporting, the dissemination, the publication, and the check-in meetings, how often those will be. And when you are writing the proposal, you must show that you are conversant with these obligations if you were a winner. Otherwise, if the application goes out and the people who are offering this funding realize that you don't actually appreciate your obligations, if you won, then it would be that you are a risk recipient of the funding. So these are some of the things that I usually carefully read when I'm submitting an application. Now, I also realized that actually WTS was so generous to the extent that they were able to give the applicants what the evaluators would be looking for. And that is generosity. Like team composition, innovativeness, plausibility, and I think someone already talked about this. And innovativeness and plausibility are very important in a sense that even if you give out a very innovative proposal, but it is not grounded in the available literature or a very novel conceptual framework, then people would see that there is a huge risk that you might actually not achieve your benefits, or you might not deliver what you said you are going to deliver, because there is a huge risk if what you are presenting is not grounded in the available literature. Even if you show you are able to show how grounded what you are proposing is to the available literature, it should also be good that you show the pathway for what you are presenting to advancing what is currently known. And I think what is very important, which WTS was able to give in their application pack, is that the proposal should show clear implementation pathways and things like ethics consideration, data analysis plan, technology testing algorithms, work plans, the promise versus the budget. I think someone already talked about that. You can promise to address all the animal welfare problems in the whole country for 6 months using $5,000. Of course, that is not possible. And when the evaluators are looking at that proposal, they'll say, well, it is a good plan to have the whole country have animal welfare compliant farm production systems, but it is also not going to happen with $5,000 over 6 months. And once you have shown a clear implementation pathway and you have shown that you are going to get very nice solutions, it should be good also to show the translation and the dissemination pathway. Things like conferences, farmers' days, whatever it is that you have actually put in your methods. I think the last slide will be areas where there could be improvements. And those areas where there could be improvements, when I was looking through the applications, for team composition, which was one of the key areas WTS was looking to evaluate the proposals at, I think most of the applicants had very good teams, except in one situation where the CV of the PI was not verifiable. If I were writing a CV for a grant, it would be that all the information I'm making available in my CV is verifiable, at least publicly. If it is publications, someone can find those publications. If it is where I have worked in the past, someone can find out that I worked in those areas. Otherwise, it's not really good to attach a CV that cannot be verifiable. Then innovativeness. I think that all our proposals need to show a clear path to measurable improvements in animal welfare with low risk of failure. There were so many nice proposals which were not showing clear path to improving animal welfare. And if they did, some of them had very high risk of failure. For example, you can write a very good proposal. You want to improve farm animal welfare in Nigeria, and Nigeria has so many states, and you say you'll do it for all the states in Nigeria. yet you have $10,000. Of course, much as it is a very nice project, $10,000 cannot do animal welfare, cannot solve animal welfare problems in the entire Nigeria. So the risk of failure is high. The other area I think where we can improve is in plausibility. I think we need to improve proposal grounding to available literature. There are so many proposals that did not appraise their state of the art with regard to what is already available, or that did not provide novel conceptual frameworks showing how they were aiming at advancing animal welfare within each of the different themes ABC that were available. I think there is need really, if you are putting out a proposal, it would be good that you ground it in available literature. If, for example, you are saying that housing is the problem, probably you should show by what percentage, what are some of the parameters in housing that are not available, and how will you improve them, and how will you sustain the improved welfare standards in those houses, something like that. Then there is also need to improve clarity of implementation pathways. Even when it was stated that things like ethics considerations, data analysis plan, new technology testing algorithm, etc., were required for proposals to succeed, so many applicants, for example, did not mention how they would take care of ethical considerations in their proposals, or how they would conduct data analysis, or how they would be testing their new technology that was being advanced to improve animal welfare, etc. And what I believe is very important to winning, not only for small grants or medium grants or even huge grants, for example, EDTCP3 funding, for us who are in that area, it is always very important that you understand research core and what it is up to. If you don't understand what the research core is up to and what the core values of the funder is, you are likely to make mistakes and not address the knowledge or the solution gaps they are seeking to fund. I think those are some of the key comments I have. We can extend the discussion within the key.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis, for that very informative presentation.